Hey guys, we have some new information regarding when we will see mutants entering the MCU, and it's going to be sooner than that original 5-year time frame that we thought. So let's talk about it.
Spider baby, shoot some spider webs. Thank you.
Part of the reason for this is because with Spider-Man not being fully guaranteed in the MCU as much as maybe we would like, it gives a premise for Kevin Feige and co. to push forward the time frame for the introduction of some of these other former Fox properties, and that includes the Fantastic Four. But I specifically want to talk about Mutants and X-Men because I personally am a little bit more vested and interested specifically in Mutants and the X-Men. So first we have the Eternals. We'll potentially introduce the idea of the X gene due to the Eternals interfering with Homo sapiens thousands of years ago, so it's a dormant gene that becomes unlocked later on. And obviously that's coming in November 2020. Then we have the WandaVision leading up into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and this supposedly, according to some sources, has gotten things right in the past with what Wanda's doing with reality warping and manipulation, and then how that leads directly into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness will be the way that they explain how it'll create like a multiverse issue where mutants will be appearing, or at the very least that Deadpool could enter through this multiverse. There is one little thing that is sort of an Easter egg that might help to establish this as well. At the end of the Black Widow movie, there may be a post-credit scene with General Thunderbolt Ross, in which he will start that Thunderbolts initiative, and that might be like a Disney Plus show. And so with that, he'll probably be talking to Yelena, the new Black Widow, and that will establish, the first one, and then obviously General Thunderbolt Ross will be Red Hole. Deadpool was part of Thunderbolts at some point, so it's kind of like a rogues gallery where they team up to do good together even though they're previously considered villains, kind of like the Marvel equivalent of Suicide Squad. And so that will establish the stage that once Deadpool enters the universe, how he could star in that TV show. Alright, so then next we have Thor Love and Thunder, which will be later that year in November 2021. And we already know that director Taika Waititi has expressed interest in cameoing Deadpool in the past for comedic effects, specifically with Thor Ragnarok, but due to the time frames and the legal issues and everything, they just weren't able to bat it down. Now that Deadpool is in Marvel IP again within the film rights, I couldn't imagine that he wouldn't want to not take advantage of that, especially if Thor Love and Thunder is supposed to be comedic and have him cameo in there, especially if he's already been introduced into that universe through Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I could imagine too that Deadpool would have his major franchises both solo and team up, and then specifically have some of these spin-off ones. By the way, Deadpool might be seeing additional movies but under the Fox banner for the stuff that he was doing before, like Deadpool 3 and X-Force, and on the Marvel Studio side that would be like the more family-friendly stuff, so they could introduce him through like a post-credit scene in Multiverse of Madness, and or stuff like the Black Widow post-credit scene, Thor Love and Thunder, etc. Alright, then we have Black Panther 2. A couple of things could be introduced. Aurora Monroe does have an interesting comic book history with Black Panther. She's Kenyan. He is Wakandan, of course. But you could have the film, it all depends obviously on Ryan Coogler, but it seems that he has expressed interest in having Namor Mackenzie the Submariner be a antagonist in Black Panther 2. What I would like to see a la DP2 style is that them originally combating each other, but then teaming up against another bigger bad on the ground side, and that would be because, alright, so here's the thing. There are sources, reports that haven't been substantiated necessarily or anything, but so take it with a grain of salt, but that the way that they're going to outdo Avengers Endgame and Thanos is to have two major villains, one who's more ground level based, Doctor Doom, and one who's more cosmically based, Galactus, and then eventually both of them will team up against all of the protagonists in something like Avengers Secret Wars Battle Planet. And obviously if you know anything about Doom, as he becomes more and more powerful, he goes from being more of a street level or ground level to more cosmic. So just imagine that with Galactus. So Black Panther 2 could be a way to introduce Namor, have them fight off against each other, kind of like DP and Cable, and then team up together, kind of like they did against Juggernaut, but in this case Doom. So you can have both the mutant, Namor Mackenzie the Submariner, be introduced as well as Aurora Monroe, and that could be her just developing her character and kind of like cameoing first, kind of like how Black Panther and Spider-Man were both cameoed in Captain America Civil War, so in the same way they could have Aurora Monroe cameo and then tie in to X-Men when Charles Xavier reaches out to her. Then I'm hopeful that we can have something as early as summer 2022 for the first X-Men, and this could be the original lineup. So that would include Professor X, Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Iceman, Jean Grey, Havoc, and Polaris, and their first victory, whether it's against Magneto or something else, and then having them captured at Krakoa. Then you could have the Wolverine Disney Plus standalone show, and that could come out, like maybe a couple, a month or two later. That could introduce James Howlett's mutant origin, take us through, some of the wars that he fought through, including World War II. If they do have a World War II, then it would be really cool if they could show Wolverine fighting along, back when he had his bone claws, fighting alongside Cap, in which case they could have an episode with Chris Evans as Captain America, and then the Namor actor for Black Panther 2 that they introduced as like fighting alongside, and they could have that. Then they could have Weapon X, and then they could establish some of these side stories that Wolverine just can't be given the due reign it needed to if he were just a movie property and over a movie serial. Like if you have a 12-episode serial series, then you could have the Weapon X, then you could have Department H, and Alpha Flight and everything, and you could have the Wolverine versus Hulk, and then eventually you could have it end at the very end with Professor Xavier approaching him, just like they do in the Dave Cockrum run, where he says, you can be a free agent, I'm giving you the opportunity. And then he could say, sign me up, and that could be how that season ends. And then you could have your follow-up X-Men movie where Wolverine and Colossus and Nightcrawler and Storm, who would already have appeared, and Wolverine would have already appeared, and a couple others go and rescue the original lineup, and then that would be the new lineup for X-Men 2. That's what I would love to see. And then in a third X-Men installment for a third movie, you could have some of these newer favorites show up, including Shadowcat with Lockheed, Rogue, Gambit, some of these people that were kind of shelved before, even Marrow, because she's actually kind of popular in a couple of different ways. They had an Easter egg for her in the first DP movie, and they also had her be in one of those Marvel vs. Capcom video games as well, so I feel like she's probably on the tail end. They could also, if they do decide, if the Mutants does do really well, and they do decide to retcon it as being part of the MCU, then they could have some of those characters be part of that third X-Men lineup, since some of the New Mutants eventually do become X-Men regulars like Wolfsbane. And a lot of those cast, are really up-and-coming, big, iconic actors that people would pay money to go to see. Alright, and then finally you'd have Captain Marvel 2, that would be spring 2023, and that would introduce the mutant Rogue, and they could have her, being like a mentor to Ms. Marvel or whoever. They could have, do something about the Skrull invasion and everything, and at the very end they could introduce Rogue, or they could introduce her a little bit earlier, and then at the end they could have her absorbing Carol Danvers' powers and psyche, and then that's when she could be like the OP Rogue, that doesn't just absorb powers like she did in the Fox franchise, but also has super strength and flight, and she could be in that, once again, that third X-Men installment. So this is partially speculation, partially what I would like to see, and what I know that other fans would love to see in terms of this timeline. It would be a great way to introduce some of the characters so that they already have a foothold in some of these other properties, and then establish some of the other ones moving forward. So then Cyclops would be the only one of the original lineup carrying over, and Jean Grey. I'll make another video specifically about who I would like to see in my ideal X-Men lineup as like the more permanent team of who I think are the most popular, the most entertaining, and the most exciting mutants to have on a team, and how you could use all these differences in nationality and other things to get a very interesting and unique lineup of mutants. And I just think that would be great. So please click here when that video is ready. I'll add a little paragraph that you can click on for info, and then it'll pop out, and that'll give you a chance when it's uploaded to see my fan-casted X-Men lineup for like that first, second, and third sequence. Thanks so much again, guys, for watching. Please like and comment. Comment who you'd like to see, which mutants that you would like to see appear in any of the Marvel 4, Phase 4, or Marvel Phase 5 lineup that they've already announced, or if they haven't announced, that you would think would be a great way to introduce or cameo certain mutants before the first or subsequent big X-Men team-up movie. I'm super excited for this. I would love to see the comic book accurate costumes. Which version of Wolverine's costume do you think that they should have? Do you think, like, maybe as the series goes on, if they have it as a Disney Plus series, that they would, show him in his original, like, Wolverine versus Hulk costume, and then have his like yellow and brown one when he joins the X-Men, or one that's like a little bit more modern looking and sleek that you've seen in some, like for instance in the final scene that was deleted for the Wolverine. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe if you want to see more up-and-coming news with some of these new sources and some of these new leaks for mutants and things. Anytime that I get something from any of my sources, I'll be sure to share it as well, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified if there are any other updates about mutants entering the Marvel Phase 4, Phase 5. Thanks so much again, guys, for watching. You have a wonderful day.